Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome in. Hello, welcome. I'm working on my stack of things for my lives. So I have a piece of P25 to finish up on the Department of Homeland Security. So I will go ahead and finish reading that. I do have comments off so I can make it through reading, and then I will do a Q&A at the end for anyone who is interested. But again, I turned off comments just so I could read through the document for everybody. But welcome in. Again, I will do a Q&A at the very end of reading. So, all right, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So I have been trying to get us through a chapter at a time for P25 so that everybody has some idea of what it is that could very well happen. So we stopped here at the Department of Homeland Security. So I had gone through a few pages of this already, but did not make it to the end. So I thought, well, I'll just, hop on here for an hour, put it together, and then I will post this up on my Tube of You for anyone who is interested. So let's go ahead and dive in. I've done the first few pages, but I do want to kind of remind everybody of what's going on. So I will start again with just the summary at the beginning, and then we'll start skipping through to some of the practical plans that they're putting into place, that they want to put into place. So here we go. Department of Homeland Security, and this was written by Ken Cuccinelli. I apologize. Primary recommendation. So again, this is Project 2025. Our primary recommendation is that the president pursue legislation to dismantle the Department of Homeland Security, or DHS. After 20 years, it has not gelled into one DHS. Instead, its various components, different missions, have outweighed its decades-long attempt to function as one department, rendering the whole disjointed rather than cohesive. Breaking up the department along its mission lines would facilitate mission focus and provide opportunities to reduce overhead and achieve more limited government. In lieu of a status quo DHS, we recommend, and then the following pieces are their recommendations. All right, so number one, they want to break the Department of Homeland Security apart. So first, we have U.S. Customs and Border Protection, or CBP, be combined with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. Here, the Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Refugee Resettlement, and the Department of Justice, Executive Office for Immigration Review, and Office of Immigration Litigation into a standalone border and immigration agencies. This will be a new agency they're proposing. At the cabinet level, more than 100,000 employees, making it the third largest department measured by manpower. So that's interesting, third largest. So they're saying we want to break up DHS and put it into a new department. So they'll take one out and then add one. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, be moved to the Department of Transportation. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, be moved to the Department of the Interior, or, if combined with CISA, to the Department of Transportation. The U.S. Coast Guard be moved to Department of Justice, and in time of full-scale war threatening the homeland, to the Department of Defense. Alternatively, the Coast Guard should be moved to a Department of Defense for all purposes. So I am going to be careful with my language. At this point, I will just be using DOD because the D words seem to catch the algorithm. The U.S. Secret Service, be divided in two, with the protective element moved to DOJ and the financial enforcement element moved to the Department of the Treasury. The Transportation Security Administration, TSA, be privatized. The Science and Technology Directorate, S&T, be moved to DOD, and the Office of Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction be moved to the FBI. So that's another movement as well. All of the remaining supporting components could be dismantled because their function already exists in the moving components as well as the receiving departments. Cutting these costs would save the American taxpayer significant sums. Unless and until this dismantling recommendation is pursued and achieved, however, DHS will statutorily continue to exist. Again, they put that in there because if anything is done statutorily, it means Congress. So Congress has to approve breaking DHS apart, not the executive branch. So that's what they're saying here. Until we can get these changes through, it's going to stay what it is right now because that is what Congress has decided. Continues to exist needs many reforms. Accordingly, we now turn to recommended changes in DHS as it exists now. So I'll kind of fast forward a little bit through what their proposals are, because this is a really big chapter here. So the mission statement: the Department of Homeland Security protects the American homeland from and prepares for terrorism and other hazards in both the physical and cyber realms, provides for secure and free movement of trade and travel, and enforces U.S. immigration laws impartially. Here's the overview next. I'm sorry, I've got a car being weird across the street. Yikes, I hope they're okay over there. Put on your hazards, dude. Okay, back. Here we go. Overview. The Department of Homeland Security was created in the aftermath of the T attacks of September 11th of 2001 and subsequent mailings of spores. The Homeland Security Act of 2002, which created the department, states that DHS's primary mission is to prevent T attacks within the U.S., reduce the nation's vulnerability to terrorism, minimize the damage from and assist in the recovery from any T attack, prepare and respond to natural and man-made crises and emergencies, and monitor connections between illegal DRUG trafficking and terrorisms, coordinate efforts to sever such connections, and interdict illegal DRUG trafficking. So that's the overview there. Again, I will be skipping through some of this as well. So I will skip through the rest of this here because they're just reiterating what they started with. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Charles. I appreciate that. So although this last paragraph will kick us into the list that they're referring to, so I will grab onto this one. The bloated DHS bureaucracy and budget, along with the wrong priorities, provide real opportunities for a conservative administration to cut billions in spending and limit government's role in Americans' lives. These opportunities include privatizing TSA screening and the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, National Flood Insurance Program, reforming FEMA emergency spending to shift the majority of preparedness and response costs to the states and localities instead of the federal government, eliminating most of DHS's grant programs, and removing all unions in the department for national security purposes. A successful DHS would secure and control the border, thoroughly enforce immigration laws, correctly and efficiently adjudicate immigration benefit applications while rejecting fraudulent ones. Interesting to note is that, of course, they're already doing these things. Next, secure the cyber domain and collaborate with critical infrastructure sectors to maintain their security and provide states and localities with a limited federal emergency response and preparedness. So they would cut the funding to help states if something happens. Secure our coasts and economic zones, protect political leaders, their families, and visiting heads of state or government, and oversee transportation security. So that's their plan. So first we've got Office of the Secretary, SEC. In the next administration, the Office of the Secretary should take on the following key issues and challenges to ensure the effective operation of DHS. Number one, expansion of dedicated political personnel. So DHS is the security secretary is a presidentially appointed and Senate-confirmed political appointee, but for budgetary reasons, he or she has historically been unable to fund a dedicated team of political appointees. A key first step for the secretary to improve frontline office functions is to have his or her own dedicated team of political appointees selected and vetted by the Office of the President, Office of Presidential Personnel, which is not reliant on the detailees from other parts of the department to help ensure the completion of the next president's agenda. So rather than just one person, they want a team of political appointees. Next, an aggressive approach to Senate-confirmed leadership positions. So this is where we're going to be getting into what they're wanting when it comes to cabinet positions, right? We've all been kind of talking about that recently, who's being recommended because they have to be approved through the Senate. So here's one of the strategies that they're trying to put out there for pressure on the Senate when it comes to confirmations. Well, the Senate confirmation is a constitutionally necessary requirement for appointing agency leadership. The next administration may need to take a novel approach to the confirmations process to ensure an adequate and rapid transition. So here's where they set their plan out. For example, the next administration arguably should place its nominees for key positions into similar positions as actings. For example, putting a person in to serve as the senior official performing the duties of the commissioner of a CBP. Well, that person is going through the confirmation process to direct ICE or becoming the secretary. This approach would both guarantee implementation of the day one agenda and equip the department for potential emergency situations. Yikes. While still honoring the confirmation requirement, the department should also look to remove lower level but nevertheless important positions that currently require Senate confirmation from the confirmation requirement, although this effort would require legislation. So again, what they're wanting to do here is up to Congress. So this is their dream plan, but they cannot do it unless Congress agrees. And a friendly reminder, our Congress is as close as it has been for majority-minority power since the 30s. So that's pretty significant. Clearer, more durable, and political-only line of succession. So they're again trying to focus on the president having the power to make these determinations. Based on previous experience, the department needs legislation. Again, this is Congress. This is not the president, to establish a more durable but politically oriented line of succession for agency decision-making purposes. The ideal sequence for line of succession is certainly debatable, except that in circumstances where a career employee holds a leadership position in the department, that position should be deemed vacant for the line of succession purposes. The next eligible political appointee in the sequence should assume acting authority. Further, individuals wielding acting security authority should have explicit authority to finalize agency actions, including regulations, to ensure that the department's Homeland Security mission is fulfilled. So none of this is possible at this point. And I'm not even sure it's constitutional. So I've got a question about that paragraph. That's a big one here. As far as someone not really understanding the ins and outs of the Constitution. Soft closure of unnecessary offices, pending a possible presidential decision to shrink or eliminate DHS itself, which again, this line is incorrect because it's Congress here that would shrink it. It's not the president. The next administration will still have the obligation to protect the homeland as required by law. The secretary, therefore, can and should use his or her inherent discretionary leadership authority to soft close ineffective or problematic corners of the department. While those corners are to be determined, the secretary could shift personnel, funding, and operational responsibility to mission essential components of the department, including the office of the secretary itself. This effort not only would make the department more efficient, but also would support a legislative move to shrink or dismantle the department by showing that the agency can fulfill national security critical functions without its current bloated bureaucracy. Again, I'm not sure that that's even possible here. So next, restructuring and redistribution of career personnel to strengthen the political decision-making. So again, this master plan of the president, making and ensure that taxpayer dollars are being used legally and efficiently. the secretary should make major changes in the distribution of career personnel throughout the department. For example, personnel from parts of the department undergoing soft closure, which I'm not sure they can do, could be redistributed to what will be workload-intensive corners of the department. Well, that doesn't sound very fun. Including national security, critical and transparency functions, all personnel with law enforcement capacity should be removed immediately from the office billets and deployed to field billets to maximize law enforcement capacity. So this guy is just saying, this is what I think you all should do. This is some dude coming in and saying, I'm going to change how the government works. So I'm not sure how successful he will be. All right, next, compliance for grants and other funding or federal funding. So, and as a side note, everybody, this whole issue of federal funding, this is where everything comes together. So what they're saying is we want you to do what we're telling you to do, Congress, or because we need federal funding for that, and so you need to do it. Now, typically in the past, what's happened is that the federal government has withheld money from the states, money that was earmarked for the states. And they've said, if you don't come into compliance with what we want, then we're not going to give you any federal money. So some examples of that would be, primarily like the drinking age was one a long time ago. Seatbelts, I think, is a good example. So seatbelt regulations, they're saying everyone should wear a seatbelt. And some states were like, well, we're not going to make that a requirement. And then the federal government said, well, fine, we're not going to give you any money then. So that's kind of traditionally what's been going on, kind of in the background. This time, with this new administration coming in, everybody, the question has been, well, we're going to give a certain amount of money to the executive branch because that's what Congress does, and setting it out for where that money is supposed to be. But it's possible for the president to take the money and say, well, I'm going to put it wherever I want. I'm not going to put it into this, that, and the other. I'm going to just do whatever it is that I want to do. And so that is where there could be some question here of the pressure of the federal government on different agencies. So, that's very possible. I think at this point, a lot of agencies realize that they're going to have to start fighting for their funding even more than normal because they know this is coming. So that's just kind of a heads up on how that all works. All right, so compliance for grants and other federal funding here. So they're saying there's preconditions in order for anyone to receive grants. Certification by applicants that they comply with all aspects of federal immigration laws. So they basically, people are saying you have to kiss the ring or something like that. This is a kiss the ring situation. I think that's the weirdest phrase for me to repeat, everyone, but that's what they're saying. They're saying, I'm going to agree with all of your immigration laws, and then they're like, okay, then you can get some funding. Certification by applicants that they are both registered with E-Verify and using E-Verify in a transparent and non-evasive manner for states and localities that would include certification in all components of that government, not just the applicant agency, are registered with and use E-Verify, which is this other kind of system that they want to have set up. If the application is state or locality, commitment by that state or locality to total information sharing is in the context of both federal law enforcement and immigration enforcement. This would include access to Department of Motor Vehicles and voter registration databases. So this is the piece where they're saying to the states, we want information. We want private information that you will not give us in the past, or you will not give it to us without some kind of a court order. So if you want to receive grants and funding, then you need to give us this information, from the Department of Motor Vehicles or voter registration. So in exchange for personal information, we'll give you, funding that you're requesting. So there's that. Non-use of discretionary guest worker visa authorities. So this is the part where I'm just going to start kind of cruising through this. So to stop facilitating the availability of cheap foreign labor in order to support American workers, particularly poor and middle-class American workers, and follow congressional intent, the Secretary should explicitly cease using at least 2 discretionary authorities as part of his or her broader effort to support American workers. The Secretary should make it clear that he or she will not use the Secretary's existing discretionary authority to increase the number of H-2B, so that's seasonal non-agricultural visas, above the statutory set cap. The Secretary should not issue any regulations in support of the H-2 eligible country list, the effect of which would prevent favoring certain foreign nationals seeking H-2 guest worker visas based simply on their nationality. So this is awful. Restoration of honesty and transparency. We'll just skip through that. Replacement of the entire Homeland Security Advisory Committee. We're going to skip through that too. So let's move on. U.S. Customs and Border Protection, which is really, the meat or the tofu of the situation here is the border. So there's a lot of stuff going on with Homeland Security that doesn't just involve the border, but P25 is focusing on the border. That's huge for them. So, again, this is what they're wanting to have done. Can it be done without Congress? No, it can't. So I'll just give you a couple of the highlights here. The White House should grant the authority for CBP, which is Custom Borders Protection, so we'll just say Border Protection, and DHS executives to utilize component aviation assets under the Office of Air and Marine. CHP and DHS have a worldwide mission with personnel and facilities that are deployed across the globe and in every state of the U.S. With a CBP workforce alone, more than 60,000 people, or 240,000 plus for DHS, encompassing more than 1,000 sea, land, and airports, it's essential that the commissioner, deputy commissioner, secretary, and deputy secretary can travel efficiently to facilitate to the facilities to maintain appropriate situational awareness across the department's vast mission, set and interact with the expansive workforce. Although CBP operates one of the largest aviation components of any domestic U.S. law enforcement agency, executives are prohibited from utilizing the agency's aviation assets to facilitate official travel. Executives are required to fly on commercial airlines, and this requirement significantly limits their ability to have classified communications and takes them offline for extended periods of time. So, that's an interesting idea, having them fly commercial, because, the really rich ones have their private jets and so on. But it's your kind of everyday hardworking Congress person that's going to be going commercial. Also, just to kind of tie this into last night's live, when we were talking about Matt Gaetz and how he had set up, private airplanes for ladies and various people in order to get to wherever he was going. So I don't think this is going to have a significant impact on the way that they're thinking if they were to make it so that they could fly privately. So that's my 2 piece for that. Border Patrol should be combined with CPB. Border Patrol has more than 20,000 personnel, and OAM has approximately 1,800. OAM's assets are dedicated in support of BP operations the vast majority of the time, yet redundant approval, strategy, and independent hierarchical command serve as impediments to efficient and practical resource deployments. So CBP should restart and expand the use of horseback mounted Border Patrol. So I'm not sure. I don't know. I'd be okay, but I don't think the horses really like that super hot, dry climate, but I don't know. I'm not a vet. I'm not sure. When I read through this part, I think, would camels be more appropriate? I truly do believe that. I truly do. But I'm not sure. I don't believe camels are actually part of the U.S. So hold on. Oh my gosh. Can we use camels? I don't know. Do we even have camels in the U.S.? I don't know. I don't know, everybody. Let's just put that in here. We'll ask later because it's hot out there. Oh, Sorry, I was making myself laugh. Here we go. Keep going. Skipping through here so I can get the highlights. A single nationwide detention standard should be codified that prevents individual states from mandating the federal government agencies and that they adhere to the widely expansive and ever-changing sets of standards. So here they're asking again, they're saying Congress needs to write a law in order for us to do any of the stuff that we would like to do. So that's kind of set. Yes. Congress would have to pre-approve the camels. Oh, all right. I apologize. Okay, here we go. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. So this is ICE. Now, just for your information, the ACLU has already filed a lawsuit against the federal government already, saying that they would like to know what the plans are, how they want to change ICE, what the parameters are going to be. So that's already on file with just this general question of, we have a right to know what it is you're going to try to do. So nothing's happened on that. The complaint was just filed maybe a couple weeks ago, but they're already getting ready for those lawsuits. So needed reforms. Here, since the formation of DHS, ICE has increasingly been tasked with auxiliary missions that have little or nothing to do with either immigration or customs. So I guess they don't like that. Oh, I'm flipped around. Sorry, everyone. Here we go. Flipping it back. Enforcement to retrieve ICE to its primary mission. Any new administration that wishes to restore the rule of law to our immigration enforcement efforts should. So these are their big pieces. This is their master plan for deportations and how they're going to put it together. So order ICE to stop closing out pending immigration cases and apply the Immigration and Nationality Act, or INA, as written by Congress. So again, this shows that the person drafting this has no idea how this process actually works. So, that's a big red flag. Next, direct ICE to stop ignoring criminal aliens identified through the 287G programs. Now, this again, we have a discretion versus ignoring, and I think you're going to find it's more discretionary. And they can say that, the president can come in and be like, dude, you're using too much discretion. That's fine. But, there's nothing that can actually be done about that. No law can be passed in order to remove that kind of discretion from someone. It's just part of the job. Eliminate T and U visas. So this is the other part I think a lot of people aren't realizing, is that not only is it people without proper paperwork to be here, but it's people with proper paperwork. It's just a group of people, whether or not you've got paperwork or not, they're still, going after these groups of people. So for many people who are like, well, I've got a visa, I'll be fine. Who knows? All right, so victimization should not be a basis for an immigration benefit. So that, again, sometimes I feel like the verbiage on this, if you just put it in the form of like a Disney villain, I don't know, let's just make it Scar from Lion King, right? The movie's out. So if Scar was to say victimization should not be the basis for an immigration benefit, everyone would shudder and throw popcorn, right? Because this is what the evil minions do. If an alien who was a trafficking or crime victim is actively or significantly cooperating with law enforcement as a witness, the S visa is already available and should be used. Pending elimination of the T and U visas, the Secretary should significantly restrict eligibility for each visa to prevent fraud. So again, this is one of those things, if you're harmed, that's not going to help you. Issue clear guidelines regarding detention and bond for aliens. Thousands of illegal aliens are allowed to bond out of immigration detention only to disappear into the interior of the United States, where many commit crimes, that's not true, and many others disappear, never to be heard from again. And why would they want to be heard from again if you're going to just go through this process of pushing everybody out? This occurs primarily because of poorly worded bond regulations, contradictory bond policy memorandum, and poor practices for managing released aliens and alternatives to detentions program, which requires significant reform. So again, this is one of those things where this person clearly has no idea how this process really works. Prioritize national security in the student and exchange visitor program. So, again, as an FYI, we had executive orders come in when it came to these kinds of things and put a halt on it. So, even student visas, any of those kinds of things were all halted. So, again, they're like, well, we want to get rid of people that don't have proper paperwork, but we also don't want to have people from other countries here. So, let's make that happen. All right. We've got Homeland Security investigations. Special agents in the 811 series should enforce Title 8 and 18 crimes as the biggest part of their portfolio. The role of ICE deportation officers should be clarified. All ICE memoranda identifying sensitive zones where ICE personnel are prohibited from operating should be rescinded. This is going to be a state-by-state situation. To maximize the efficient use of its resources, ICE should make full use of existing expedited removal, ER, authorities. And then they go into some of their new policies that they're proposing. So I'll just go through, we'll summarize this piece and then move forward. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the budget piece either, but new policies, U.S. national security and public safety interests will be well served if ICE were to be combined with CBP and USCIS, as mentioned above. Additionally, ICE HSL, along with CBP, should be full participants in the intelligence community because they don't have anything else to do. The use of Blackie's warrants should be operationalized within ICE. Those civil search warrants are commonly used for worksite enforcement when agents have probable cause that illegal aliens are employed out of business. This would streamline investigations. So, we do have search and seizure protections for everyone in the United States, not just some people. Safeguarding Americans will require not just securing the border, but the continuous vetting and investigations of many aliens who exploited President Biden's open border for potentially nefarious purposes, including some Afghan evacuees sent directly to the U.S. during America's disastrous withdrawal of Afghanistan. So, that's not how that went. All right, next up, we've got some budget then. So how they can do the funding. And you'll notice again, it starts with Congress because Congress is the one with the checkbook. So Congress should mandate and fund additional bed space. Congress should fund ICE for at least 20,000 ERO officers and 5,000 Office of the Principal Legal Advisor attorneys. So they want more people to come in and we'll need to pay them. Next, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. Again, we're going to kind of fast forward here. I'll give you the opening paragraph. So since January of 2021, this branch's priorities have been misaligned, and this has transformed it into an open borders agency, ignoring the critical role that it plays in national security, public safety, and safeguarding the integrity of our immigration system. USCIS should be returned to operating as a screening and vetting agency. Regulatory efforts have focused on easing asylum eligibility in a manner that is guaranteed to exacerbate asylum fraud as people surge at the border. Emphasis also has been placed on removing legal barriers to immigration, such as the use of public benefits. That's not that. That one's questionable. These actions violate statutes, erode congressional intent, and provide a significant magnet for continued illegal immigration. Wow, again, someone who has not worked within the immigration system here. So then they're proposing new policies as we skip through. So to advance the national interest, the three core immigration agencies, USCIS, ICE, and CBP, should remerge and have immigration elements outside of DHS. The fragmented immigration enforcement framework that developed in the wake of Homeland Security Act has weakened each agency and should be remediated. Combine these critical agencies would strengthen their capabilities, ensure cooperation, and promote information sharing. Agency responsibilities and the delineation of authorities such as inconsistent use of deferred action and issuances of NTAs by each agency have long been a point of contention contention that would be addressed much more easily if they were recombined into a single entity. So this is true. This has been going on quite a while. And in fact, even before Obama's first term, this was a huge issue that they were dealing with and continue to deal with. All right, so here's where that was kind of a quick overview of what I have already gone through. So now we can start kind of moving into the rest of the chapter. All right, so for those of you following along at home, we've covered that already, so we'll go ahead and dive into the next piece. So one more part here. Management directives and policies should realign to ensure that the workforce, while adaptable to and able to handle the bulk of USCIS mission, is not allowed to be pulled off the mission work to focus on unlawful programs like DACA. Now, this bothers me because DACA is not illegal. The courts have said DACA is fine. Mass parole for Afghans, Ukrainians, Venezuelans, etc., which divert resources away from nuclear family and employment programs. So, that's not true either. So, let's skip fast over this. Yikes. Okay, so internal efforts to limit employment authorization should be matched by congressional action to narrow statutory eligibility to work in the United States and mitigate unfair employment competition for U.S. citizens, which is not a thing. It's not a thing. There is no competition. It's just not a thing. That's one of those things that people need to fact check. Fast forwarding, and then they have their budget that they've set out here too. So next we've got necessary border and immigration statutory regulatory and administrative changes. So the current border security crisis was made possible by glaring loopholes in our immigration system. The result was a preventable and predictable historic increase in illegal and inadmissible encounters along our southern border. This pulled limited resources from the front lines of our nation's borders and away from their national security mission, releasing a vast and complex set of threats into our country. To regain our sovereignty, integrity, and security, Congress must pass meaningful legislation to close the current loopholes and prevent future administrations from exploiting them for political gain or personal ideology. So again, this is the only people that can do this is Congress. So they can make their wishes known, but they have no power or authority to actually change any of the laws. So they came out and have suggested a couple of different things, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because our Congress is so close. I would be shocked if any kind of immigration piece was passed. So I'm going to skip through that. Unaccompanied minors, asylum reform, parole reform, other pathways for border crosses, employment authorization, state and local law enforcement, which we have to be really careful about this particular piece with the feds. Then we'll skip on through here to regulations. So this is the second part, and it states withdraw Biden administration's regulations and reissue new regulations in the following area: a credible fear asylum jurisdiction for border crosses, and 2, public charge. All right. And then they go into T visas and U visa reform. Again, it's not just people without paperwork, it's people with proper paperwork. Repeal TPS designations and H-1B reform, which is a huge issue. And one of the things that we had to deal with the last time Mr. Trump was in office was kind of the mess that was made regarding this. So, yikes. I see that back. I see that executive order will probably come back as soon as he gets into office, which is just more work for the lawyers. All right, here we go. Executive orders. So this is what they're going to ask Trump to do for his executive orders. And we're going to see a whole bunch of those as soon as he takes office. We're going to see a ton of executive orders overturning a lot of what Biden's already done, putting Trump's old orders back into place, and then a whole bunch of new ones. So executive orders and pardons are going to be the two really big hits that we're going to be taking when he first takes office. So pathways for border crossers. Direct the Department of State and Department of Homeland Security to reinstate asylum cooperative agreements with the Northern Triangle countries immediately. Recommence negotiations with Mexico to fully implement the Remain in Mexico protocols. I'm not sure that Mr. Trump and Mexico are able to really have a good communication situation, but we'll see. Reinstate to the extent possible expedited pathways with full credible fear immigration court process. Prohibit the use of notices to report. The use of any funds for travel into the interior of the United States and government flights or transportation for aliens. Mandate that ICE use all detention space in full compliance with Section 235 of the INA. Issue weekly reports on detention capacity and prove authority for low-level temporary capacity, for example, tents, once permanent space is full. Eliminate the use of ADT for border crossers except in rare cases and only with the explicit authority of the Secretary. Prohibit the use of parole except in matters that are certified by the Secretary of Homeland Security as requiring action for humanitarian or significant public benefit reasons. And prohibit the use of parole in any categorical circumstance. So, that's completely not reasonable. All right, so here's the enforcement piece, which I think a lot of people, again, are pretty worried about. Number 1, restrict prosecutorial discretion. All right, so good luck with that. As long as our prosecutors are human beings, there's going to be some discretion. To eliminate it as a catch-all excuse for limiting immigration enforcement. And this also shows me that the writer of this has not spent very much time in court. Mandate the use of E-Verify for anyone doing business with the government. And I think they've kind of done a soft launch on that. It wasn't particularly good. Designate USCIS as an intelligence community adjacent, ensuring it has access to national security and law enforcement databases. Rescind all memoranda limiting enforcement of immigration laws, including those identifying sensitive zones. And ISIS, by the way, that would be going against several court decisions, and ICE's widespread use of termination and administrative closure of cases in immigration court. And that's another one where it's like, well, good luck. All right, so next, averting or curtailing a mass migration attempt. All right, let's skip along. Sub-regulatory matters like USCIS priorities and structural changes. And then that takes us to the Federal Emergency Management Agency. So let's move into FEMA. So before we're talking about some border stuff, now we're talking about some national emergency things that could come into play and how those would be handled. So needed reforms. FEMA is the lead agency in preparing for and responding to disasters, but it is overtasked, overcompensates for the lack of state and local preparedness and response, and is regularly in deep debt. So this sentence right here is like pretty aggressive. After passage of the 1988 Stafford Act, the number of declared federal disasters rose dramatically as most disaster costs were shifted from the states and local governments to the federal government. Now, I can't confirm that, but I do know we have had a lot more disasters after 1988, and I don't think it was just because of the hairspray, but it could be. In addition, state-friendly FEMA regulations, such as the per capita indicator, failed to maintain the pace of inflation, made it easy to meet disaster declaration thresholds. This combination has left FEMA unprepared in both readiness and funding for the truly catastrophic disasters in which its services are most needed. So this, begs the question here, who determines what is a catastrophic disaster? Is it the dude writing this or like trained people where this is their job? That's a pretty big question here. Reform of FEMA requires a greater emphasis on federalism and state and local preparedness, leaving FEMA to focus on large, widespread disasters. Alternatively, applying a deductible could accomplish a similar outcome while also incentivizing states to take a more proactive role in their own preparedness and response capabilities. So they're kind of saying, like you need to meet your deductible before we'll come into your state and help you. Uh, you know, in addition, Congress should change the cost share arrangement so that the federal government covers 25% of the cost for small disasters, with the cost share reaching a maximum of 75% for truly catastrophic disasters. So up to 75% of assistance. I'm not sure if we can either picture that in our minds, what that would look like. All right. And then they go into the budget issues when it comes to FEMA. So that's ending each of their different pieces. And the highlight here is Department of Human Services should not be in the business of handing out federal tax dollars. These grants should be terminated. Accomplishing this, however, will require actions by members of Congress, yet again, who repeatedly vote to fund grants for political reasons. So let me take this moment again to remind everybody that P25 is, this manifesto where they're talking about what they think government should be, and in particular, the executive branch. But every single time they present something, every single time, the problem is they're getting checked. And that's what the checks and balances are for. So they come in and they're like, we need to change this, we need to change this, but the only way to change it is through Congress. And so they're saying, well, we should put pressure on Congress. And with our Congress, again, as close to as it is right now, that's just almost impossible. So every time, again, we're seeing this word, we need legislation, or Congress needs to work with us, that's when those checks are sinking into place. All right, so budget issues here, personnel here. So next up, Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, here, which we heard about quite a bit, actually, in the Georgia indictment, the RICO indictment, set out that CISA had said it was the most secure election ever. And then even in the DC case, where that information, again, the person in charge of CISA had been terminated by Mr. Trump because they wouldn't come in and say everything was fraudulent. And they said, no, it wasn't. So CISA's had some struggles, but that's probably where you've heard that before. Here, for election security, CISA should help states and localities assess whether they have good cyber hygiene in their hardware and software in preparation for an election, but nothing more. This is of value to smaller localities, particularly by flagging who's attacking their website. CISA should not be significantly involved closer to an election, nor should it participate in messaging or propaganda. So again, they're trying to reduce that role of how CISA would work. All right, next, the U.S. Coast Guard. They want to do some significant reforms with the Coast Guard, which is actually in violation of their other request of securing the borders. So I'm not sure about that. We've got new policies here. So the Secretary of the Navy should convene a naval board to review and reset requirements for the Coast Guard wartime mission support. To inform and validate these updated requirements, the Chief of the Naval Operations and the Coast Guard Commandant should execute dedicated annual joint wartime drills focused on the Coast Guard's wartime missions in the Pacific. So at this point, he's even recommending how to train people. So he's saying this is what they should be doing for their training. Like, do you have expertise in Coast Guard training, sir? I believe not. And then we get into the personnel piece. Again, I'm kind of skipping through here a little bit. And no budget for that one. Here's the U.S. Secret Service. The U.S. Secret Service must be the world's best protective agency. All right. Currently, the agency is distracted by its dual mission of protection and financial investigations. The result has been a long series of high-profile embarrassments and security failures, perhaps most notably in allowing then Vice President-elect Kamala Harris to be inside the the Democratic National Committee office on January 6th while a pipe bomb was outside. What? Despite the great size and scope of the January 6th investigation, this high-profile incident of danger to a protectee remains unresolved. That's interesting. All right, so new policies here. They're saying there should just be two roads to focus on Skipping, here's the budget, personnel, Transportation Security Administration, so TSA. The TSA model is costly and unwisely makes TSA both the regulator and the regulated organization responsible for screening operations. As part of an effort to shrink federal bureaucracies and bring private sector know-how to government programs, TSA is ripe for reform. All right. The U.S. should look to Canada and European private models of providing aviation screening manpower to lower TSA costs while maintaining security. Until it's privatized, TSA should be treated as a national security provider, and its workforce should be de-unionized immediately. Oh, that's nice. Oh my gosh. All right. Skipping forward, we've got management directorate here. So we've got a front office. Immediately place a small team of advisors with a deep understanding of operational management, but who have some experience in the government because they will need to understand the nuance of reduction in force. So again, I don't think this guy even knows what the management directorate does, but he's going on and on about it. We've got Office of Strategy, Policy, and Plans here. Office of General Counsel is here. So let's talk about this a little bit. Here are the needed reforms. Apparently, instead of each component, Chief's Counsel reporting to the headquarters, General Counsel with a solid line, and indirectly to his or her component head with a dotted line, the accountability should be reversed. Due to the different missions throughout the department, the components can better manage the legal issues of their specific mission than headquarters can. Thus, the chief counsel or equivalent of each component should report directly to the component head, report indirectly to the DHS general counsel, and be accountable to the component head. The report to the general counsel is to ensure consistency of advice across DHS. And I don't think consistency is the right word when you're looking for advice. I'm not sure it has to be consistent, right? Because you're trying to see all the different perspectives. So they should hire significantly more Schedule C or political appointees who in turn supervise career staff and manage their output. DHS mission is politically charged, and the legal function cannot be allowed to thwart the administration's agenda by providing stilted or erroneous legal positions and decision making. So, all right. Again, good luck with that. That sounds very Congress oriented. All right, we've got the Office of Legislative Affairs, Office of Public Affairs, Office of Partnership and Engagement here. So in this piece, what they're saying is they should all work together and say the same thing. All right. The next president should reach an agreement with congressional leadership to limit committee jurisdiction to one authorizing committee and one appropriations committee in each chamber. So again, good luck with that. He's saying the president needs to make his own little mini legislative affairs situation. So I'm not sure that that's going to be possible. All right, so next we've got Office of Operations Coordination, Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, and Privacy Office. Now, this is one piece where I have highlighted a few things because I think they want to get rid of it. So the Office of General Counsel should absorb both the Civil Rights and Privacy Office. So they're saying that should go into General Counsel here. Because they should report to a deputy general counsel who would be a political appointee. The officer should focus on equal employment opportunity compliance and the civil liberties function and investigative matters only within the headquarters or support components. So they basically want to cut civil liberties down to a really small batch of issues to ensure that only U.S. persons and lawful permanent residents are provided protections as required by the Privacy Act. All DHS issuances should be updated to reflect that DHS protects the privacy of individuals as required by the Privacy Act, the Judicial Redress Act, and any U.S. European Union data protection and privacy agreement. So this is a pretty big one. They'd be cutting quite a bit. Next, Office of Immigration Detention, Ombudsman, and Office of the Citizenship and Immigration Services. All right, so we're coming down to the very end, everyone. This is page 165. I'm going to kind of skip us through here because it's really more of the same. The government should be a neutral adjudicator, not an advocate for illegal aliens. So there's several of those little zingers in here. Agency relationships between the Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Defense, Department of Justice, Department of the State, Department of Housing and Urban Development, Department of Education, which is, Department of Labor, Department of the Treasury, and Intelligence Community. So again, the big piece is they want to deunionize what's available and merge everything into different places. So that takes us to the very end, which are end notes here. So that last piece again is just going through what they would like to have for agency relationships. Let me go ahead and turn on comments, everyone. We did make it through, again, chapter 5. So let's see if we've got some comments here. Let's see how it goes. All right, well, welcome in, everybody. Unscheduled live here. Just kind of taking care of my to-do list today. I mean, oh, I know. It's, yeah, I can. That was intense. It was. Good evening, Kaya. Happy holidays. Yeah, it's a lot, but, again, making your way through. I know. This is one of the longer chapters. But I think, though, the way it's written is comforting a little bit, to me at least, because I can see how every single thing they want to do, pretty much, they have to get approval through Congress, and there's no way that they're going to. So all these big changes that they want to do to immigration and how everything's run, that goes through Congress. So you can't single-handedly do that. Even if an executive order comes out, then it could be challenged as illegal. Hello, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Hello, Tay. Hello, Lindsay. Good. Hello, Chase. Good to see you all. Hi. Have you gone over the DoD policy yet? So, Kisha, I'm assuming this has to do with... there was kind of this big issue in the language of DoD recently that had to do with protections. Is that the one that you're talking about? Yes, P 2025. Happy holidays. Yes. Well, hello, Jennifer. Hello. DoD Office of Admin. Yeah, yikes. Yeah. Hope they do their job. Well, true, or just can fight each other enough that it doesn't affect us. Like, hold the line. Coast Guard does not fall under the Navy. Navy, that I was wondering. I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. Oh my gosh, we really struggle. No, the military in general. Okay. Because there's a big question that came out, and I remember I put this really great post together, and it got flagged. And so I was like, oh, I guess I can't talk about that anymore. So yes, exactly. Military in general. Yeah, so we don't really have anything for the military in general at this point that we can just say. One of the things that's really interesting, I think, here is our military branches have their leaders in there. Several of them have stepped down. Several of them have stepped up. And, I just don't get the feel from them that they're like, let's just go ham and go forward. Oh, thanks, Chase. Love the Christmas ring. Yes, Christmas. Yay. Happy Christmas Eve, everyone. This is me at my desk saying, well, let's just finish up Homeland Security, shall we? What's more festive than that? I can't think of anything. Heard about drafts or something. Yeah, so no, there's been no change to the actual law. There's some kind of a policy that came in that if I'm thinking about it, there was some kind of issue raised, and the DoD came out and said, look, we've been doing this for 30 years. Air Force and Army. Oh, okay, yeah. So we've got, and Navy vet, let me ask you this then. Do they work well together? I don't pay attention. I know that there's a lot of angst, but my knowledge is that their top people work pretty well together. Like they, as well as you can think of. So that's like a big question that I've had. Love the nails. Thank you very much. Yeah, these are my holiday nails. I'm so excited. I love it. Yeah, so Santa does posse. Oh my goodness. National security threat. Well, he was just in Vietnam. He's past Vietnam now. Oh, thank you, Sandra, I appreciate that. I hope everyone is able to enjoy their Christmas preparations as we go through today and then into tomorrow. Some people, I don't know, I thought everybody did this. Do we open one present on Christmas Eve? Do you do all presents on Christmas Eve, or do you do all presents on Christmas? I feel like there's a mixed bag here on which, because we always did just one present on Christmas Eve. But then my mother-in-law looked at me like I had lost my ever-loving mind. So I was like, okay, sorry. You open everything on the eve? Okay, just one. Okay, I wonder where that came from. That idea of just opening one. One gift Christmas Eve. Yes, exactly. Exactly. And then all presents on Christmas Day. Right. Okay, one on the eve. I'm wondering, because I keep thinking, I'm like, well, is that what the pagans did? Were they like, okay, everybody, come together. Here's your one present on Christmas Eve. Whatever. But I don't think they're, maybe not. Had to wait until midnight. Oh, I love it. Christmas PJs. Oh, that's so fun. Big family holidays, Christmas Eve. Oh, they're for I love that. That's a great mix. New pajamas. Okay, it's to calm the excitement and anticipation. Oh, true. Oh my gosh, it's so hard to keep the kids in the bed when it's the night before Christmas, right? Oh, absolutely. One gift on Christmas Eve. Okay, that's I feel comforted because I thought, wow, what am I doing here? What happened? So keep the kids from begging to open them all night. That's a good point. And it helps. It really helps. Waiting to see if I get 2 lumps of coal. Hey, coal, that you may be able to sell that in the future. Hold on to that coal. That's going to be an investment right there. Couldn't get them to bed. Yes, our one gift is tonight. Oh, I love it. That's so much fun. That's so much fun. We celebrate a lot of different holidays in my world, so oh my gosh. One present, Christmas night, then all on Christmas Day. Okay. Oh, that's so fun. Lasagna, yum. Midnight mass, all right. I don't know how are people staying awake at a midnight mass? You know what I'm saying? It's a control issue. You just open the valve just a little bit. Let some of the pressure out. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Family presents on Christmas Eve. Santa's presents on Christmas. Oh, that's good. Oh my gosh, I was going to say coffee. Yeah. I'm retired from midnight mass. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I had a dear friend of mine who was always going to midnight mass, and I was like, all right, have fun. And she's like, I'm not sure fun's the right word, but we're going to do it. Oh, Carol's, oh my gosh, that sounds really great. Thank you so much. I've learned so much. Oh, I'm glad to have been of assistance. We've got a lot of things in the hopper here, everybody. So that's why I was like, let's get Homeland Security off my desk so we can finish this one up. We do have some more P25s. I won't be doing more than one live a week, I think, for the P25s. But the Blake Lively complaint, dang, that's going to be an amazing one to go through. Oh, Deborah, oh, you're so sweet. Oh, that's so sweet. Oh, Christmas Eve, my dad. Oh, that's so fun. I was saying your dad passed around shots before he went to Mass. That's what Jesus did, right? I think Jesus passed around shots. I can't confirm that. Not happening this year. Oh, you know what? Sometimes, Jennifer, the best, most wonderful things are just sitting down with your family. Get out that old game that you all used to play, get it out, dust it off, clean off the blood. Let's not get so angry next time over Monopoly. That's a note to myself. But anyway, sit down and play, that's wonderful. Sometimes that's the best thing ever. So you don't need any cash for that. You just sit down. It was turned into wine. Well, look, I don't know the details. All right. All I know is there was Jesus, there was wine, and everything else. Ooh, football and movies. That sounds great too. That sounds really great. Usually you have to have a good buzz for that. we had this tradition. I don't know, maybe it was weird again, but my family, we would watch all the James Bond movies, like the old ones, the super, like the first, second, super old ones. And then I thought, oh, maybe I could share that, with my family. And then I was looking around, I'm like, this James Bond stuff, and it's not right. He does not treat those ladies appropriately. So I had to stop. I was like, nah, we're not going to watch that. Learning disability. So I learned so much. Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, I do. Anyone who needs, visual aids, I try to help with as well, because I'm with you, man. Yeah, the Bond movies, tell me about it. That was the best stuff. Oh, I'm so glad though. Yeah, I mean, I think for people where it takes a little bit more effort to learn, those are the ones that I think, in my mind, learn it the best, because you got to slow down. You gotta really focus on it, and it tends to click better that way. So I'm glad that that's working for you. That sounds great. Yeah, super visual. Me too. Me too. I am very visually oriented, and so if I don't have everything like coded, I struggle. I really struggle with understanding what's going on. So, and I've always been that way. So it's not just, when you get older, you focus better. Oh, that's true. That's true. New Mission Impossible. Oh, that's a great one. Oh my gosh, that's so fun. I think Bond was in the closet. Well, I mean, there's several of them. So yes, I know one of them for sure. We're like, come on out, man. Come on out of the closet. Oh my gosh. Yeah, exactly. Misogyny. Yeah, it's not something I would share. I mean, the more recent ones, nope. I'm not sure I'd share those. I think Skyfall was pretty much, that was it for me. But just watching you. Oh, that's so funny. Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, so we'll probably, we've got two movies on the schedule for tonight, of course. We always watch The Muppet Christmas Carol because, I mean, you have to. You have to. And then we watch Die Hard. Those are the two. We may actually switch the order. I haven't decided yet. But you pop some popcorn, you get some apples going, and you just, listen to the Muppets singing. It's wonderful. Oh my gosh. Ooh, the Beetlejuice movie. Oh, that sounds fun. That sounds fun. That's got to be great. Dinner's, oh, of course. I'm very happy to share my time with everyone. Just watch Muppet Christmas Carol. Woohoo! It is. It's the best. So yes, Die Hard and the Christmas Carol, the Muppet Christmas. Right. Well, yeah. I mean, Die Hard, though, is my favorite movie to watch when I'm traveling. It's my go-to comfort movie on the airplane. Oh my gosh. The real question is, Die Hard a Christmas movie? Well, obviously, duh. Oh my gosh. Like the music from yeah, I agree. They hit different when you get older. They hit different when you get older. They hit different than when you're a kid. You're like, oh, look at all of that. And then now you're like, oh, I don't think you should say that. Sir, you need to go to a sensitivity class. Yes, on the plane. I always watch Die Hard on a plane. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, look for it if it's ever available, everyone, for your in-flight movie. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Grandma got ran over by a reindeer. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, Charlie Brown, of course. Of course. We love that. We absolutely love that. So, and Charlie Brown, I tell you, my significant other, he can play the Charlie Brown song on the piano. Like he was a drummer, so he didn't really play a lot of piano, but of course you need to have piano in order to play the drums. But he would, every once in a while, I'd randomly walk around and then I hear the Charlie Brown theme song being played, and I would be like, what just happened? It was like a surprise, a fun surprise. It would just randomly occur. Okay, carry on. Yeah, I'll have to try that. Right. Bruce Willis. Oh, I know, right? Oh, he's amazing. Oh, thanks, Albin. I appreciate that. Yes. Well, it's all about, everybody's a little different. Everybody needs a little different theme song. I try to pick a theme song for the year as my New Year's resolution. It's like, where's my theme song? So, yes, got to figure that one out. Well, with that, everybody, I have already taken up an hour and a half of your time, my dear friends. So I will go ahead and let you go. I really just want to go watch the Muppet Christmas Carol. Oh my gosh, 6888. Oh my gosh, really? I've been seeing a lot of ads for that. I'm in Colorado Springs. It's going to snow tonight. Ooh, well, make sure you batten down the hatches, whatever that means. I will survive. You can do it. I believe in you. So with that, everyone, I will sign off. But Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Let me get my calendar out. Okay. We've got Hanukkah coming up. We've got Boxing Day, Kwanzaa. Happy Kwanzaa. Coming up. National Bacon Day is on Monday. Then we've got New Year's Eve. And we've got Hanukkah going on here. So happy holidays, everybody. I wish you all the very, very best. So I'll be back again at some point. Hard to explain bad down the hatches. Maybe I should be more careful about what I say. Oh, yes. Thank you so much to my moderators. You are amazing and wonderful, and we adore you. So have a great night, everyone. Take care, and thanks for coming by.